The candle is lit. The silk curtain stirs. And time begins to drift like incense smoke. Let us return now to a land of quiet wisdom, to a house of scrolls and ceremony, to the Han dynasty. The year is around 35 CE, and in a quiet town called Unling, a baby girl opens her eyes to moonlight filtered through bamboo screens. Her name is Zhao, born into a world of men, but destined to shape how the empire remembered itself. Her home was a courtyard of balance, jade green moss on stone paths, bronze bells over lacquered doors, and rows of bamboo scrolls tied with red silk threads. Her father, Ban Biao, was a scholar-statesman, a man who traced the rise and fall of emperors with ink-stained fingers. He taught that history was not just memory, but medicine, a salve for disorder, a way to make sense of the now. Her mother, never named in official records, is remembered only in quiet gestures. A whisper of camellia oil, a steady hand weaving silk, a presence felt more than spoken. And her brother, Ban Gu, bright, confident, already composing verses in the style of the ancients. He would become her greatest teacher and fiercest advocate. In this home, daughters were not hidden. They listened. They learned. The Han Empire stretched like a dragon over rivers and mountains, a web of trade roads, watchtowers, and walled cities. At its heart was ritual. Every household observed the rhythms of the seasons, sweeping tombs in spring, honoring ancestors in autumn, morning bows to the family altar, evening tea under the plum tree. Women were expected to uphold these rhythms, to bear sons, to keep harmony, to speak little and be obedient. But the Ban family was different. In their garden, women spoke of poetry and virtue. They recited the Book of Rites along with the Book of Odes. Ban Zhao's mother believed that wisdom made better wives, and Ban Biao agreed. So, while most girls practiced embroidery, Ban Zhao practiced writing her name. Chao, meaning shining or illuminated, a fitting name for a girl who would one day shine light on all others. Life in Han China moved to a graceful rhythm. At dawn, the city stirred. Vendors shouted softly over baskets of rice cakes. Fathers lit incense. Children chased chickens between rooftops. Breakfast was a bowl of warm congee, maybe a boiled egg, maybe pickled turnip. Men in dark robes walked to court. Women folded laundry with hands that knew both discipline and longing. The homes were built with symmetry. Wooden beams, tiled roofs, paper screens. Courtyards open to the sky, where rain fell like poetry. And within one such home, Ban Zhao sat quietly, watching her brother grind ink, listening to her father speak of the past, and wondering, even then, if words could be wings. One night, a banquet was held in her grandfather's memory. Candles flickered in low bowls. Musicians played zithers in a slow, pentatonic hum. The elders drank chrysanthemum wine and whispered stories of dynasties long gone. Ban Zhao sat cross-legged in a corner, a scroll resting in her lap. A visiting tutor turned to her and said, "What does the child of the historian know of history?" She answered softly, that it moves like water, that it remembers where it came from, and that silence, too, is a kind of record. There was laughter, yes, but also respect. That night, her uncle would say to Ban Biao, "She is watching the world. Teach her how to name it." Tonight, she is still only a child, but already the stars lean closer when she dreams. Ban Zhao's path begins not with triumph, but with stillness. in the scent of ink, in the sound of brush on silk, in the breath before a word takes shape. Tomorrow, we will walk beside her through those earliest lessons, in language, in loss, in love. The day begins softly, with the creak of wooden shutters and the clink of porcelain tea bowls. In the scholars' hall, the ink is still fresh. Scrolls are unfurled like river paths, and Zhao, still only a girl, sits with her back straight and eyes alert. She has learned, already, in the power of stillness, that in silence thoughts gather like dew. Outside, other girls sweep courtyards and braid their sisters' hair. But inside, Zhao is learning to write history. Her childhood was not without sorrow. When Zhao was barely 9 years old, her father, Biao, passed into the realm of ancestors. His brush, which once moved like wind across bamboo, was still, and with it, a chapter of her home closed. They wrapped his body in silk and laid it in a lacquered coffin, carried it through the garden he had once walked, and set him to rest beneath the hill where peach blossoms would bloom. Zhao knelt in white robes beside the ancestral altar. She lit incense. She bowed. And then she rose. Her brother Gu would continue their father's Book of Han, and she, the youngest, would listen. Education in Han China was a man's world. Girls were taught obedience, not logic, deference, not debate. But in the Ban household, scrolls were not hidden from daughters. Gu, now the family patriarch, saw in his sister a mirror. Brighter, quieter, but just as sharp. He read to her from Confucian texts, taught her how to hold the brush with grace, how to speak only when words were earned, and how to see beyond the veil of myth to the roots of truth. She memorized histories by candlelight, copied maxims until her wrist ached, and asked once, "Why do the sages speak only of men?" Her brother smiled. "Because they haven't heard you yet." Eventually, Zhao was permitted to sit in on her brother's private lessons, an honour few girls could dream of. The room smelled of pine ink and dried reeds. Boys shuffled on floor mats, whispering commentaries, and Zhao sat among them, unseen by some, but noticed by all. She listened to arguments on the nature of virtue, took notes on court rituals, and silently corrected her classmates under her breath. The instructor once asked a riddle from the Analects. She answered before any boy could speak. No one laughed, no one scolded. The air in the room simply changed. At night, Zhao would sit under the stars, her head resting against the cool wooden railing of the terrace. She mapped constellations with her fingertip. The azure dragon of the east, the white tiger of the west. She wondered if the heavens noticed her. A girl among scrolls, a daughter in a man's lineage. Her mother once found her dozing beside a half-written verse. "You'll burn out like the lamp," she said gently. But Zhao replied, "I want to burn long enough to leave a line behind." So the years passed. Zhao grew not with the blush of court girls, but with the slow unfurling of bamboo. Strong, graceful, silent. She had no sword, no army, no divine title, but she had a brush and a mind shaped by memory. In the next episode, we'll follow her through a day in her adult life, a day among students, letters, and royal summons. The morning begins before the sun. In the quiet courtyard of a scholar's house, the bamboo leaves whisper. A sparrow calls once, then again. Ban Zhao rises without sound. Her feet touch cool stone. The world is still blue with sleep. She pours a bowl of water, washes her face with trembling calm, and lights a stick of sandalwood incense. Before the day begins, before scrolls, before summons, she bows 3 times to the memory of her father. Then she begins to write. Her brush glides across silk. The words flow gently, each stroke deliberate like a breath. She is revising the Book of Han, a record of emperors, laws, and storms. Her brother began the task. She now completes it. Sometimes she pauses. Not because she is uncertain, but because the memory of a line from Confucius stirs in her. Virtue is never left to stand alone. It will always find followers. She writes those words in the margin, not for the court, but for herself. By mid-morning, she walks through the capital's gates. In Chang'an, the Imperial city hums with processions and petitions. But not far from the palace walls, a new kind of school has been built. And at its centre, a new kind of teacher. Ban Zhao enters a simple courtyard lined with mats. Young women rise and bow. She smiles gently, then unrolls a bamboo scroll. Today, they discuss the teachings of the Liji, the Book of Rites. Speak not to dazzle, she tells them. Speak to soothe, to steady, to serve. Her students copy her words, the ink still wet, their futures just beginning. In the afternoon, a palace attendant arrives. A message, stamped in red wax. The Empress Dowager has summoned her. Ban Zhao folds the scroll she had been reading, straightens her robes, and walks calmly through the palace halls. She does not flinch before the gates. She does not bow too deeply. For Ban Zhao is more than a guest. She is the Imperial historian, the teacher of princesses, a counselor of queens. She advises on rituals, clarifies genealogies, and even suggests the words used in imperial edicts. She speaks softly, always softly. And when she finishes, the Dowager Empress nods and calls her Zhongshuan, balanced clarity. At dusk, she returns home. Her children run toward her, bare feet slapping the path. Laughter floats like petals in spring. She kneels, embracing them. Dinner is simple. Steamed millet, warm soup, a preserved plum or 2. She listens to their stories, corrects their tones when they recite poems, and smiles when her youngest insists on drawing her name upside down. She is a mother, a widow, a teacher, a witness to time. Night folds gently over Chang'an. The stars are veiled in silk clouds. Ban Zhao sits once more at her writing desk, a final scroll before her. She dips her brush, begins a new line. A woman's virtue is not in silence alone. It is in harmony, in strength, in knowing when to speak. The candle burns low, the ink cools, and Ban Zhao smiles. Tomorrow she will teach again. The sun slips low over the rooftops of Chang'an. The city quiets. A hush moves through the ancestral halls, where names are whispered like prayers. And somewhere among those names, written in even, elegant strokes, is hers. Ban Zhao, historian, teacher, mother, the first woman in Chinese history to be named court scholar. She is gone now, but her words are still breathing. Ban Zhao lived a long life, passing quietly in her 70s, a rare age for her time. She had survived dynastic shifts, court intrigues, the deaths of her father, brother, and husband. Yet through it all, she wrote, she taught, she shaped the rhythms of empire with her ink. Before her death, She completed the final volumes of the Book of Han, ensuring the dynasty's history would not vanish like mist. And she left behind something else, something softer, but no less enduring. A guide. Her Lessons for Women, a modest scroll, just a few chapters long. It was written not for kings, but for daughters, for wives, for mothers. In it, Zhao urged humility, grace, attentiveness. She echoed Confucian ideals, yes, but between the lines, she left a message of deeper strength. A woman may not govern with the sword, she wrote, but with conduct she can shape the world. Some have called her conservative, others a quiet revolutionary. Perhaps she was both. Centuries passed, dynasties fell like leaves in winter, scrolls were burned, names forgotten. But in the Tang dynasty, long after Zhao's ink had dried, a temple scribe rediscovered her writings. He found her in footnotes, in fragments, and in those careful curves of brushstroke, he recognized a voice that had not faded, only waited. He preserved her works, copied them again, and Zhao's name returned. Today, her scroll is read in classrooms from Beijing to Boston. Scholars debate her tone. Was she submissive or strategic? Historians ask, why has she not been taught beside the men whose legacies she preserved? But for many young women, Zhao offers something gentler than argument. She offers a beginning, proof that even in a world of robes and rites, a woman's pen could carve space in stone. There are scholarships named for her now, museums that show her scrolls beneath glass, and poems written in her honor that float like lanterns into the night. What does it mean to leave a legacy? Is it fame, statues, chronicles carved in bronze, or is it something smaller, quieter? Perhaps it is this: a girl, centuries later, lifting a brush for the first time, and believing her voice matters. Because someone, long ago, once wrote hers down. So sleep now, in the hush of her memory. Zhao walked softly, taught gently, wrote bravely. She did not seek the crown. She did not lead armies, but she preserved a dynasty, guided empresses, and proved that history, when written with care, can hold all voices, even the quiet ones. Let her name settle in your dreams like falling petals. Let her scrolls turn in the wind beside your breath. Let the stars carry her forward. Good night, from the woman who remembered everything.